I move that we open the June 12th meeting of the Hugh Cargill Committee. Cargill Trust Committee.
Second.
It's June 11th, but it's fine.
It's
All
the
in
11th.
favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. So first on our agenda is to approve the minutes from May 14th. And I think they went around a bunch and there were a few comments. Hi, Bob. You're still muted, but welcome. There you are.
Right. So a landscaper came by just as I went on.
It's always the way. So we're just reviewing the minutes from May 14th.
Yeah. I only had one comment, was on the exec.
We lost you, Bob. So Bob did have a comment and submitted it, and Hester updated the minutes.
Yeah, unless this is a new comment, I attended to that.
Why don't we approve them pending that if Bob has one thing, we'll make that small change.
I'm calling that a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Great. All in favor? Excellent. Thank you. And then the treasurer's report for April and for May.
Okay. I just have a couple comments to point out. For the May 14th meeting, you'll notice that we have an adjustment of $13,325. That reflects a check that was not put in the register in January, but after the adjustment, all those numbers should be are brought up to date for the property tax relief. Okay. So any other questions on that month? Are we going to do the two together or pass them each one at a time?
I think we can do them together.
Okay. Then for the one for today's meeting, I just wanted to note that we got a very nice gift for the HCT of $20,000 from an individual, and then a few small donations. This same individual gave $17,000 last summer. So that's just something to note. And the other thing to note is for the silent fund, that reflects the camperships. And you'll see that there is a negative ending balance in the campership account. That is because the trustees of donations will be meeting in mid-June, and they will be approving the money for it then. They meet very infrequently, so it's hard to get an allocation of money from them the exact time you think. So those are the two things I wanted to point out. Does anyone have any other questions on that report?
I have a question about the very generous, presuming wishing to be anonymous donor. I assume that somebody knows who he or she is and was able to thank them.
I have the name.
Yes, Shannon created a thank you letter, and Bob and I signed it.
Good. Because that deserves a big thank you, right?
Well, we do thank yous for everybody.
Yeah, I know.
Especially annual appeal, but yes, it's always very yes, Lizzie.
Yeah, this is something that I always wonder about in thank yous, because if it's somebody that any of us know personally, it's really
they are not anonymous. I can give. They did not ask for anonymity. It's Mr. and Mrs. John Landon. If anyone knows them personally, I do not.
I don't either. But I think when we do, it's really nice to be able to thank people in person, because they care about us and we care about them as donors. So that's all.
Okay. So if there aren't any other comments, I think we can approve them.
Okay. I move we approve the treasurer's reports for April and May.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, so excuse me. First on our agenda, is to review the town process and identify criteria for selecting committee members. So you all know we have two excellent interested citizens. And I read over our own committee materials as well as town materials to see if we could have some guidance on how to choose, because it really felt like an unchoosable situation because we really wanted them both.
Yeah.
So I also spoke with Wendy, and I just feel like the approach might be for us to talk about what it is that makes the committee strong, and then be able to have some framework when we have people who are interested in joining us, to have strength in lots of areas. And so today I wanted to just chat pretty informally. I don't feel like we're going to make a formal process out of it today, but we may want to, as a result of our discussions, we may want to update our charge in the fall, to add something about membership, so that it can help future committees when they're in the process of choosing new folks. So I'll just start. For myself, I was I'm not a strong fundraiser, and feel that every year we get incredible support from Denny McIntyre, and we did in the past from when the tax relief committee was a group, a formal committee. And since we do administer several different funds, it seemed like it would be good to have strength in fundraising. So that was one area that I thought would be good. And I just, open to everybody else. I'm just going to write down all the different ideas that people have for what we think makes a good mix of people. I wish Bob was back, because he isn't, but I'll ask him when he gets back to, go ahead, Lucy.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm jumping the gun on this, but I think we have a candidate who fits magnificently with the intake responsibilities, who has the background and the in many areas that we're involved in, which is health, education, all transportation, all the things listed on her experience that really line up with what our community needs, our individuals' needs, and in the healthcare as well. And also having worked with open people, which aligns with our community. So I feel like we have a candidate, and I'm jumping the gun, I realize, but as far as the intake person for the last few years, I feel like this person could easily just tomorrow start doing intake. And that's a really critical part of what we do, and also maintaining the confidentiality. We have a candidate for requesting assistance who wants confidentiality, and of course we'll honor that. So I feel we have someone who fits the intake sector of our responsibilities.
So Lucy, I don't think you're jumping the gun at all, because defining the things that you do is a critical part of what the committee does. And you have a year left, so we are actively, all of us, interested in making sure that we have someone that can step into your role. I wrote down, and let me know if I missed any, because you listed a lot of things. Intake, healthcare, transportation, confidentiality, but I think I missed something.
Well, there were more things I didn't bring up, but access to transportation. So, auto loans and all of that sort of thing. Housing, we do a lot with rent and subsidizing that. Recreation, we do a lot with the recreation department on programming. Every single area listed through, and I think it's really interesting that this candidate has been on the Emerson Hospital Community Benefits Committee and informs the hospital on health issues that really require everything. And economic insecurity, all the buzzwords in the description are exactly what we're involved in, as far as.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I would
think I got it. Go ahead, Catherine.
I agree with both of you. I think we do need to relook at fundraising. And it would be great to have somebody who had expertise in that. But I believe right now, this year, we need someone who can help do the intake and kind of bring us into the 21st century. When this committee was formed, there weren't any social workers in town. There wasn't the help that there is now. And I think someone who knows the town, knows the people in those positions in town would be such a good addition to our committee. As an example, several months ago, we had a request for removing garbage from a house. And we all scratched our heads about that. And I now realize that was hoarding, and probably hoarding. And that is a mental health issue. And we probably should have stepped up for that if we had known more about all the, what kinds of problems, mental health issues in town. So I think that candidate would be great addition for us right now. And I can report that she has worked with Bonnie Wilbur, and Bonnie said she's terrific. We should grab her. She is just a doer and a great asset to the committee she's worked on in town already. And that's not to say anything about the other candidate, hasn't also done many wonderful things in town. And maybe she would be willing to wait a year to come on.
Esther?
So I was thinking the advantage of speaking last is I really could just say ditto, but I will say a little more than that. And clearly, how you started, Elizabeth, by maybe we could consider some guidelines or suggestions for the future to help other people with similarly difficult situations and decisions and choices, I think is absolutely true. These two very strong candidates would be equally good. They have slightly different strengths. They're not all that different, I don't think, between them and what they would bring. But clearly you can't lay down guidelines and say, this is exactly what you need to think about, because it depends on who else is on the committee at any given year when you're considering who is new. So basically, I don't think we can go wrong here. You can almost close your eyes and point, to pick somebody of two very terrific people.
Bob, we've
Bob's
been
back.
chatting, I don't know how much you heard, but we've been chatting about what areas of interest or experience that the committee benefits from, so that we can create a framework for adding new members. Do you want me to go through the sort of list we've made, or were you able to hear us? You know what? Hi. Connecting to audio.
I don't think he's
See.
connecting to audio. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that now. Okay. That's okay. So yes, we're sort of mixing the two things together because we have candidates that have things that would fill gaps for us. And I want to make sure that besides doing that, which I think I have a pretty good list, are there other things, and I thought of a few myself, are there other things that the committee might want to focus on? So just speaking for myself, my first take as a volunteer to this committee was, I don't know why they would pick me. I'm a real estate agent. I don't, and yet, but when I look into my background, I have experience on other committees, like Gaining Ground with food insecurity. I've been on multiple committees in town, like the planning board and the finance committee. So there's definitely connections that I bring. And I wrote those down, any experience in those two. And then the other, I think that shows up in our group is some degree of organizational skills, management skills, things like the treasurer or the minutes or running a meeting. Those are all things that we want to be sure that we cover as well. So that's, for me, I think I've got probably a dozen things here, and I could probably narrow it a little bit. But is there anything else from each of you personally that you have brought to the committee that we haven't put on the list here? Or that you think
Elizabeth,
would,
could I add something?
sure, please.
I know you were thinking maybe of amending the charge. I just wanted to note that you would maybe want to be careful not to be too specific if this is
Right.
something you're gonna include in the charge, because I think, yeah, right now, this current committee, you all have different backgrounds and you don't want to back yourself into a corner that you're limited to people only with those specific traits or backgrounds. But this could be, a guiding document that the committee holds on to that we put on your webpage or something, but that isn't in your charge. So you're not always stuck to it.
I think that's incredibly valuable in suggestions, Shannon, because the charge, we don't want to do the opposite of boxing ourselves in with too much specificity. I like that quite a bit. Thank you.
Yep.
think also, we're sort of, between us, we can all do almost anything, which is actually wonderful. I know we're never supposed to meet outside of our public meetings, but we can, collaborate as within the committee, bring forth our talents. I mean, we can write, we can promote, we can raise money, we can do lots of things. So, I, in his comment, I mean, I just think we're looking also for a person who has many skills. And I think we all do as a committee member. So that's one of the things I enjoy on this committee. I think we can all help each other.
I agree, Lucy.
Something else that occurs to me that it's really hard to know about somebody, but I know when I was on the Housing Authority Board, for a while there was a member of the board who was very personally difficult, and it made a number of meetings very challenging. And I suspect that that has happened on some other town boards and committees and projects. And that probably has to do with the way we talk with people ahead of time, interview people, what we know about them, but you also want to make sure that it's someone who is going to sort of fit the culture of the committee and be an asset and certainly not a disruptor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No disruptors currently on board.
No, fortunately.
I'll just tell a funny story. That's how I ended up on the planning board. I was the disruptor going from the public, going to the planning board meetings, complaining about a project.
Mm.
And I was reading everything, the Wetlands Protection Act, the zoning, laws, everything. And finally, Marcia came up to me and said, I think you should be on the board. And later I realized she had done that to educate me on not being difficult. Anyway, okay. Well, I think we have if I speak really generally from the notes that I took, it seems like someone with a background that would really support our intake position is at this time most important. And if I can, if you don't mind, I would love to just suggest that we make a decision, because I think of the two candidates, one is stronger in the fundraising, which is important, but can wait till next year, and the other is much stronger in the intake. So if the committee's all right with it, I'd just like to propose that we make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to add Jill to our committee.
I agree. I second you on that. And I think it is important that we let her know soon rather than letting this drag out.
Right.
Sure. Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I agree with the caveat. I know when I came on the committee a year ago, I sort of blithely assumed that I was well prepared to eventually help Lucy or take on the intake role. And then I learned how much time it takes and, backed off that I just cannot manage that in my life. Are we also committing ourselves, I hope, to figuring out how to make that role more manageable for anybody who doesn't have Lucy's particular expertise, interests, talents, enthusiasm, passion? And make it possible for somebody to step into her shoes at some point.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, Hester. And I think if you may have noticed, I took off of our agenda. Originally, we were going to be reviewing our roles.
Yeah.
I took it off of our agenda thinking that we would potentially put that into our meetings that start in September when they're in person, and that we can include Jill, assuming that she's, I mean, I'm going to speak with her right after the meeting to let her know that we would like to recommend her. Because I think that that's going to contribute a lot to the process of saying, whoever's going to step into this intake role, what does that look like?
Right.
And it may be that, because I know for you, you still have you work, you have commitments outside of our committee that make it more challenging to give the amount of time that Lucy does. And I don't believe Jill, I mean, she's involved in a lot of things, but I think she has more time, and that might be part of my conversation with her, is just a heads up on what the job is, and also this, plan for the committee as a whole to define our roles a little more clearly. And personally, I'd like to see the intake role be of somewhat equal commitment in time and energy as all of the roles.
Right.
So, maybe we're going to have two people in that role. Maybe we're
Right,
going, I mean, there's just a lot of different ways that we can
Yeah.
address it so that we do a good job. I don't know how we're going to fill your shoes, Lucy, honestly.
Yeah.
But I want that to be part of our process in the future with our new member.
I hope I'm being heard and unseen. This is a
Yes,
tough
you
time.
are.
Okay. Typically, that the role that Lucy has now is more of a function of the person that's in the role. I know Lucy spends an awful lot more time than some, like prior people that have had that same role. So I think, I just want to say it's the amount of time that you put in, is a lot dependent on your own personality, and I'm not to say that other people haven't, helped, but Lucy is, just committed all over town. So, really, by that role she has in other.
Oh, we lost him.
Lost him again. I'm agreeing with him though, what he was saying.
But
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, it's I agree that
the other role, this role a lot, we tended not to have contact. So anyway, my 2 cents.
thank you. Okay, so can I suggest that somebody I think we do need to have it as a vote, just make a motion of who we'd like to recommend to the select board.
I make a motion that we select Jill to the
I
position
move
next year.
Could somebody remind me of her last name that I can, because I'm trying to take it for the minutes here, and I was going to do the motion and I couldn't block on her last name.
Block. Jill Block. 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 BLOC.
OCK. Interesting that I blocked on her name. There you go. I really didn't.
BROCK.
Brock? Oh. It's BR.
Oh, BR, so I did block on it. BR.
Okay, so we have a motion to make a recommendation to the select board to have Jill Brock be our new member.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
And
Bob?
Elizabeth, you'll
Bob.
reach out to
Thank you.
Kristen?
Oh, yes, definitely. I'll give Kristen a call. Yes. Yep. And I'll call both of them, make sure Jill's on board, which I'm sure she is, and Kristen, and then Shannon, is it a written recommendation that we make to the select board, and do you know when their next meeting is?
Yeah, so it would be good if you could send an email to Wendy. I know she's online right now, but you could send an email to Wendy, and then Wendy will generally confirm with me when that's ready to be added to the next select board meeting agenda. The select board is meeting next Monday, the 17th. So it will be a two-step process. She'll first be nominated and then appointed at the following meeting. So she should be able to be appointed by I think by your July meeting. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Excellent. I'm very excited. All right, so the next item on the agenda, we actually might want to postpone. It was to choose our new roles to begin in July. Maybe we should just move that to July. Potentially August, because that would be Jill's very first meeting.
I think that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Okay.
Uh, As
Bob?
as far as I'm, I would like
Maybe
to meet with someone,
Bob, can you turn
whoever,
your video?
for
Can you
my
turn your
role.
video off,
And-
Bob? I think it might be help to try to turn your video off.
Okay. Is that better?
A little bit. Go ahead. Let's just see how it goes.
I, I, I would like to meet with someone I have like as well with the person, so.
What he's saying, I believe, is that he would like to have a meeting with whoever's taking on his role so he can give them the files and explain what it is he does. Bob, is that what you were saying? Because you've been cutting in and out. Okay.
Okay. Okay. How about if you do the July meeting before we transition? Is that all right? Oh, actually, that won't work for you and Jill to be at the same meeting. Okay. So why don't you and I meet? And I'll do it until the next one, since I've been CC'd on everything from Shannon.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
And then Elizabeth, you're saying you'll then prep whoever moves into that,
Right.
right? Okay.
Elizabeth, if you'll CC me when you're doing that, if I'm available, maybe I'd come too so that I can hear potentially add
That'd be
that to mine as well.
That'd be great. Thank you. Okay. Well, we have our property tax relief update from Bob next.
I have two new applicants.
Okay, and we'll chat about them in executive session.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, that's it for today. I feel like we made it was a great meeting, great progress. I'm really excited. I'll admit I was nervous about the whole process since we had such great people interested. But I think we have a great plan. So, all right, motion to adjourn to executive session, please.
I move that we adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing individuals or families seeking assistance, the disclosure of which would be a violation of privacy.
Second.
And all
Aye.
in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Can you raise your hand, Bob? Thank you so much.